What's going on, Pittsburgh Steelers fans? This is Jeff Hartman, editor of BehindTheSteelCurtain.com, with you for another episode of the Steelers postgame show. I'm flying solo today as Lance Williams has some New Year's Eve plans. However, we're still doing the show. I chose to do it a little bit later today so that we could obviously – I wanted to see how the NFL playoff picture kind of came about. As we know, the Pittsburgh Steelers won today with primarily backups on offense, 28-24 over the Cleveland Browns. They now move into the playoffs, and they have the number 2 seed with the New England Patriots beating the New York Jets in Week 17. So, seedings, we'll talk about potential injuries. I'll answer some of your questions. All of that stuff is going to be going on. And I think the biggest news right now, at least, and this is at 8:22 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, is that Baltimore Ravens were in a win-and-in situation, and they lost, and they're not in the playoffs. It was absolutely crazy. But at the same time, in my opinion, that's almost as good as a Pittsburgh Steelers win. So the Ravens are out. I guess now's a good time as any to talk about the AFC playoff picture. The number 1 seed is New England. Number 2 is Pittsburgh. Number 3 is Kansas City. 5 is Tennessee. And 6 is Buffalo. Picture. That means that what we have now is an AFC wild card that'll be the Bills going to Jacksonville, and then we'll have the Kansas City Chiefs hosting the Tennessee Titans. Now, the Pittsburgh Steelers will play the highest seeded team out of the wild card weekend, with the Patriots playing the lowest seeded team. So it'd be very interesting to see what happens on wild card weekend. You can check out the article that was just published on BehindTheSteelCurtain.com to talk about it gives dates and times for both AFC and NFC in terms of the playoff picture. So I guess at this time, the Pittsburgh Steelers won today. It's kind of become a backstory at this point. Landry Jones didn't play awful. He didn't play great, but then again, what do you expect? He's a backup for a reason. And so now they finished with a 13-3 record. It was their best record since 2004. That was Ben Roethlisberger's rookie season when they finished 15-1, and they went to the AFC Championship game and lost to the New England Patriots. We'll go ahead and answer some of your questions if you're watching live on Facebook, if you're watching on YouTube, or if you're listening on iTunes. I'll do the best I can to illustrate everything. If you have questions, winners and losers, fire away. That's going to be that'll be on Monday morning for those that don't know what might be listening on a different day. Let's see here. Zach brings up a good point. The Ravens missed the playoffs for the 3rd straight year. It's hard to believe that the Baltimore Ravens have missed the playoffs for the 3rd straight year. They just seem to be it's always hanging around, and they were hanging around this season as well. The Baltimore Ravens should have never been in this situation. That team was hit so hard with the injury bug. You're talking Marshall Yanda. You're talking about some really key pieces of the puzzle, and they were lost for the year. They were losing guys put on IR. So the Ravens did a tremendous job climbing out of a 4-5 hole, and they were able to obviously get themselves in the mix. I really cannot believe that they lost the game at home. This is just a game that typically the Ravens win, and so I just don't. It'll be interesting. So Charles asked he asked me who I think will win in the wild card round. On the AFC side of things, I like both of the home teams to win in the wild card round. I think Jacksonville wins, and I think Kansas City wins. And that means that Jacksonville will be coming back to Pittsburgh. It would be going back to New England for a rematch of Week 1. That is I think that suits Pittsburgh well. I think when you look at a lot of people are scared of the Jaguars. Personally, I'm not. I've said that on our other podcasts and other shows. I'm not scared of the Jacksonville Jaguars primarily because, period. I don't think Blake Bortles is that good. If Ben Roethlisberger doesn't throw 5 interceptions in that game, I don't think the Steelers lose. It reminded me of the Miami Dolphins game last year. And then when they had a rematch back in the playoffs in the wild card round, we all saw what happened. So if that's the way things were to pan out, I would be totally fine with it. If I'm going to pick a team that has the best chance to upset I don't know. I don't trust Tyrod Taylor in Buffalo. I also don't trust Marcus Mariota. So that's why I think that um, both of the home teams will be heavy favorites this week going into the AFC playoffs. On the NFC side, honestly, haven't even looked at it that much. But AFC, that's who I like. And so that's how things would pan out for Pittsburgh and for New England in the divisional round of the playoffs. So there you have it. Like I said, if you have any questions, you can go ahead and fire away. You want to talk about the Steelers defense? They set new franchise record for most sacks in a season. Tremendous job by them. It was kind of interesting to hear Bud Dupree say after the game that the Pittsburgh Steelers defense and defensive players were kind of freelancing a little bit to get the record. They really wanted that sack record. Well, ultimately, that's why they would do that. They almost lost the football game. I guess it didn't matter in the long run. So, excuse me. All right, so we got a couple questions coming in. Let's see here. How can we stop? Eric says, how can we stop the big play yardage? Third down defense today, which is definitely a loser for me, was very poor. They just weren't sound at all with their run fits. They weren't sound in the screen game. They just played a very, I guess Bud Dupree said it best. They were playing a freelance style of defense, and that doesn't work even against the 0-16 Cleveland Browns. I think that it's tough for me to. I put it this way: when I think about this game, I think, okay, these players had really nothing to play for, just pride. A lot of them are probably going through like self-preservation. You know, they definitely are trying not to get injured. They don't want to be lost to the playoffs. It was concerning that this is the starting Steelers defense minus Cam Hayward, and they were giving up a lot of yardage. But still, they find a way to win. I think they'll be fully focused, fully re-energized, and they'll be ready to go playoffs. But at the same time, the Browns are now 0-16, the second team to do so since they've gone to 16 games. The last team was the 08 Detroit Lions. Chris asked, when will they announce our game day, a Saturday or a Sunday? How do they decide? The NFL will announce that after Wild Card Weekend is over. A lot of times it'll depend on the previous matchup. So I think the Chiefs play on Sunday, so they probably wouldn't Saturday the following week because they don't want to give them a short week. They were off. So that's typically how they do that most of the time. But if you remember, set with the NFL when they did that to the Steelers previously this year. I'm trying to think. It might have been 2002. They lost to the Tennessee Titans, and this is getting off the beaten path with when Nedney faked the roughing the kicker on Dwayne Washington, and that was the game that Bill Cowher was very upset that NFL had the Steelers play on a Saturday or on a Sunday and then play on the next Saturday. So to answer your question, Chris, that's kind of how they figured it out, but it's not set in stone. They want to have the premier matchups to be so the Pittsburgh Steelers are getting ready to head into the playoffs. They have a bye week. I want to mention to check behindthesteelcurtain.com throughout the week, as we're still going to have tons of content for you. We're going to try to get some film breakdowns. We want to make sure that we are really on our P's and Q's as a website to make sure that you have the best coverage out there, and really everything from predictions to the AFC wildcard round to opinions. Have it. So thanks for watching. I hope everyone has a great new year. Be safe out there, and we'll see you on Wednesday. Meet up for another episode of The Standard is a Standard.